to share as well on what's been happening. So some of the biggest jumps. Let's start with the biggest jumps year over year. The biggest jump for type of property, townhouses. Townhouses are up by 13.9% comparatively to last year at the same time.
You're welcome.
13.9.
You're welcome.
Wayne's buying them all up. So you wonder why there's no townhouses available. It's because of that cat right next to me.
I've been talking
13.9%.
Dude, I've been talking about townhouses for close to 3 years, and everybody was against it. Now everybody's for it, and now the prices are going up like crazy. You're welcome.
Wayne's like a Rain Man. He's really good at calculations on the spot, so we're going to test him on this one. So most townhouses are purchased between the price range of 120 to 200,000, 230, 220. We'll say 120 to 220 is really common for not brand new. So Wayne, if you were to buy a townhouse last year for 170, let's go in the middle. So it could use some renovations, but it was good enough to rent out as is. You bought it last year, 170. It is now gone up by 13.9%. For easy mathematical, we'll go 14%. What is that townhouse worth now? 14% on 170.
One you said 190, 191.
193,800. Not bad. Not quite Rain Man, but not maybe his younger brother.
He's clearly stressed out. Look at all his blood pressure. It's just red.
So just to put that in retrospect, if you bought a property last year, and this is uncommon for Edmonton, okay, and that's why it's fun to report on it, because Edmonton's usually very steady Eddie. We usually don't see double-digit increases year over year, which we're seeing right now. So anybody that purchased last year, no matter what type of asset, except for condo apartments actually saw the lowest growth of 0.6%, but we're seeing some really good jumps. Single family detached 6.7% in comparison to last year, and semi-detached, so like row houses, duplexes, 11.5%. So we're seeing some good jumps. So if you did purchase, and there's a lot of optimism that it's going to continue going up. Calgary, I just posted stats yesterday on my page. If you haven't taken a look, go to Calvin Realty or Calvin Hexter, Facebook or social, Instagram, and you'll see comparisons between Calgary and Edmonton and what we're seeing for everything. It's crazy. It is crazy stats. You got to take a look so you can actually see what's happening. So even in Alberta, the difference, but Edmonton speculation going to continue going up. I don't know if we're going to hit the moon. We might just hit, a couple satellites on the way. So new listings coming up. We're seeing a good growth as well. So those that are shopping that feel like there's not enough inventory, 32% growth in new listings, which is great. That's huge. Days on market, we're down to 40. Last year at this time, we were at 46. And overall transactions in general, as we normally see as the months get warmer, increases in sale volume. So things are happening. Lots of movers and shakers. A lot of out-of-province investors continuing to work their way into the market, looking at creative strategies, everything from multifamily to condo apartments. So literally a mix of everything. So it's been really fun.
Come on in. You're more than welcome to bring that money from other provinces. We are all for it, because I tell you, Calvin, I've been in this industry for just about 15 years now, investing, and like you said, it's been a steady Eddie Edmonton for close to 20 years. Ever since 2008, when it all went to poop and everything kind of calmed down. We had a little bit of a spike in 2016, but nothing crazy. The rents and the values have been pretty much the same for 20 years. And we are lagging behind other major cities. I mean, what are we, in the top 5, 5th or 6th largest city in Canada? Like, why are we still so freaking affordable when we have one of the best markets and best economies in the country? It's crazy. So we're so behind in this. And I've been watching this, like waiting. I'm like, come on. Where's that appreciation? I've been making a lot of money in mortgage paid on cash flow for the longest time. I'm getting great returns, but it's time to get some of that appreciation. Anyways, so one of the big reasons why he brought up those stats and everything else today, and why we're here today is the question of, should you wait to invest in Edmonton real estate? Because, I would say, even though we're seeing all these indications in the last little while, and, we've been seeing it since last year, even though we're seeing all these indications that it's gonna go, the news hasn't quite talked about it all that much. Have you noticed that?
We're the news, Wayne. We are the news. That's what
Yeah.
it is. I think they've seen us report on it so much. They're like, these guys have it handled. CTV, they're like, you know what? They got it covered.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I tell you, but here's the thing though. What I've learned in my experience is that the investors, the smart investors like us, are always going to see the indications first. And I've been watching very closely ever since January 5th. I had you on my podcast on January 5th, and I knew things were potentially going to be a good spring. And I knew things could be going in an upward direction. But I don't like to say things before I know, because I don't want to scare. I don't want people to make bad financial decisions. I don't want to be accountable for that or responsible for that. But when I saw the stats you were giving me on January 5th and you're on the podcast, I'm like, Calvin, I think there's something here. And I've been watching very, 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 very closely ever since. And just we keep seeing more and more and more and more. And it's almost without certainty that we're going to be going into a very, very, very hot market in Edmonton. We already are in one. But the one thing that it's missing is the headlines, and we haven't seen them yet. And when you talk about, should you wait to invest in Edmonton, are you going to wait for the headlines? Are you going to be a headline reader and jump in when everybody else is jumping in? Or do you want to get in when there's a level of certainty, but before everybody else does? And honestly, Calvin, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think? Do you think people should wait until the headlines say that, oh my God, Edmonton exploding? Or do you think that they should be start getting into it now?
That's almost always certainly too late, without question. Yeah, it's good to come in. I mean, always do your own research, of course. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a really good opportunity right now in our rental market, which we're going to be talking about here shortly too. I've been investing outside of my primary since 2013. For some of you, that's a small drop in the bucket but 2013 is when I got my second, my first actual investment property. I've never achieved rents as good as they are right now, ever.
Oh, it's crazy.
In my experience. But I don't want to, I know that's, we're going to keep that at the end. That's, we're doing like the sandwich technique. That's the bun. We're just getting into the patty right now. So we're working our way through it. Just know that we will be touching on the rental market.
Yes. Yeah. And guys, I know it's Friday and I know it's 10 a.m. in the morning. But if you guys are here, if you're watching, please let us know in the comments. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if you're in Edmonton or you're planning on investing in Edmonton, and any questions you guys have about the Edmonton market. Now's your chance. You got myself. I'm a real estate investor coach and an investor in Edmonton. And we got Calvin. He's a realtor and a real estate investor in Edmonton as well. We know this market. It sounds a little cocky, but I'm going to say it better than most people. I don't like saying that I'm some big guru, but because I try and remain humble. But I tell you though, it's we know this market, and anything you want to know about this market, we're here to help you out. And it's funny. So Calvin, I was promoting this training here the other day, and as I was doing it, I couldn't do it with a straight face. Because when you ask the question, like, should you wait to invest in Edmonton real estate? I mean, it's pretty clear we know the answer, right? I mean, do you really think we're going to do a training video with a title like that and then say it's not? Of course, it's obvious this is the best time to be in. Like, you should be getting into Edmonton right now. You should not be waiting until everybody else. So it's a pretty dumb question. But today, I what I really want to focus on is why. And there are so many reasons why, and so many great indications that we found and research and data that we're seeing, like the data you just gave, that is just, it's you'd be crazy not to with the amount of data. And we're going to give this all to you now, again, before CTV or CBC or Globe and Mail or Financial Post start writing the articles. And by then it's just going to be way too late. You're too late to the party. And this is the other big reason why we're putting on this big real estate investor conference here in Edmonton on June 15th and 16th, as you can see in the ticker below as well. Myself and Calvin are going to be co-hosting Edmonton's biggest conference for real estate investors. And we're going to be bringing in all the top experts to show you why, and to reiterate everything that we're going to be saying today. And at that event, we're going to show you why it's the best time to be investing in Edmonton. And as well, you're going to be able to leave that event with all the knowledge and understanding and education, as well as building your power team. We're going to have professionals there that are in the industry that we vetted personally, that you can trust to build on your power team so you can start buying properties right away.
And honestly, it's almost easier to do it here than even in your backyard. Depending on what city you're from. The larger cities are really having challenges with finding good professional partners trades that are loyal, that are committed to seeing the work through in a timely manner, getting them in a timely manner, where we don't necessarily have that challenge. So when we're working with clients here that are investing from out of province, it's almost easier because, you know, you have a plumbing leak. Well, say, for example, Wayne, you're in Toronto, right? And you have a plumbing leak here in Edmonton. You call your plumber up, you give them the lockbox code. They go in, they do a video, send it to you prior to. They go ahead and send an invoice to you, send a completed video. You pay it, you never have to step foot in it, and it's already done within 24 hours. That is a thing. That is a thing. It is easier. The amount of comments I get where it's like, Calvin, I wish it was this easy in my backyard. Well, I wish it was, but I kind of wish it wasn't, because then you got to come to Edmonton. So there we go.
Yeah. And so glad you said that. I'm so glad, because that's exactly the way I run my business. And I'm in the Edmonton area. I don't like doing that stuff. Everything is through a phone call. Everything's, you know, we pay online. Man, it's so great when you've got a great power team.
Completely agree. And in the comments, like Wayne was saying too, comments are kind of like matchmaking, in my opinion. So if you're listening in and you're watching right now, go ahead and type, you know, where you're from. You know, if you're looking for a JV partner, you can use this, like literally solicit yourself right now in the comments. If you're looking for a JV partner, if you want to learn more about Edmonton, if you want, like Srihari, fantastic gentleman. If you want him to take a video of Blatchford because you're thinking about investing near one of Edmonton's largest, developments, they might even do it. And there's a new partner for you, especially if you're investing from out of province. So utilize the chat to your advantage. I don't think enough people do. And it's a great source for matchmaking. There we go. Let's get some more comments in there.
Yeah. I mean, you guys aren't seriously working, are you? You guys aren't seriously like just, let me know. This will be replayed later on as well. We understand that a lot of people do have to work on Fridays, but
okay. Quick little plug before we move on. With the stats, if anybody wants to know the stats in Edmonton, just message me. I can send you the stats directly so you have an idea of what's happening in the Edmonton market. So if you missed the beginning of this and you're not going to go back and listen to it, if you want the stats, go ahead and message us. We will send you the stats of what's happening in Edmonton. Okay? Just got to ask. You don't ask, you don't get. That's what they say, right, Wayne?
That's 100% it. I mean, your parents tell you that when you're growing up, don't they? Well, if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. Yeah.
I got something really cool to show too after. I got something really cool for everybody afterwards that I'm excited to show, but I'm going to let you continue. Okay.
Well, Trudy here, she's from Calgary and she's looking for joint venture partners as well. Ken's here from Edmonton. He says, thanks, I jumped in late. But, you know, back to Trudy here. You were talking about Calgary earlier and comparing Calgary and Edmonton. And one of the cool things about Calgary and Edmonton are that historically, Calgary always kind of leads the charge. They're always the trailblazer. And then Edmonton just kind of like follows along behind. And then also the smaller towns, like, you know, your Red Deers and your Grand Prairie's and your Fort McMurray's and stuff, they kind of follow suit depending on how the oil industry is doing. But the great thing and the easy thing about investing in Edmonton is all we have to do is look 3 hours south and see what Calgary's doing. And have you guys been watching Calgary for the last 2 years? I have. I own properties there, and I can tell you, I've been enjoying it. Now, cash flow is starting to minimize quite a bit. It's starting to drop quite a bit because of the prices going up so much and the financing costs, obviously, with the interest rates as well, and the increased costs. It's really hard to get rents to cover the expenses for this property. So cash flow is becoming difficult in Calgary, but we still have cash flow in Edmonton. And when you look at the Calgary market and see what's happening there, and you can assume that the same thing is going to happen in Edmonton, we are 2 years behind from Calgary right now. And frankly, it tends to follow a little bit quicker than that. And I would say that's a sign of being overdue. So if you follow that belief, and if you do believe that typically Edmonton follows Calgary, and history has shown that, then we are way overdue for some serious increases in values, serious increases. Now, we're watching a lot of the other stats right now as we wait for it, because we never bank on appreciation. You should never, ever, ever chase appreciation, never chase values going up and stuff like that. What you should always do is make sure you look at when you're looking at rental properties and you're planning on keeping a portfolio, you want to make sure you treat it like a business. Okay. And when you treat things like a business, you want to have good tenants, good clients, right? Good customers. And you want to make sure you have good cash flow. You want to make sure you have cash on hand. You don't want the owner of the Tim Hortons pulling money out of their own pocket to fix things, right? You want to make sure that you have a business that's self-sufficient. So when we look at rental properties, we're always looking at building it out like a business, And if the value of the business and the land goes up, that's just extra bonus. So we have a huge prospect of values going up here. We're going to take that into consideration. We're going to put that over here. If it goes up, great. Everything's looking really good. It's very promising. But at the same time, we want to look at how is Edmonton compared to other markets as performing like a business. And I want to get into some stuff right now because there's some big changes in Edmonton that have been happening the last 6 months, which Calvin was alluding to. And one of those big things is we got some big zoning changes. So coming all the way down from the federal government, that big old carrot that the federal government's been dangling across Canada, that housing accelerator fund, like, hey guys, you want that money? Show us those proposals, right? Edmonton made a pretty decent proposal and they were approved for, well, they're in the process of getting approved for that funding, but they made some big zoning changes. They cut a lot of red tape. And some of that red tape was reducing zones in the city. Here, I'm going to share an article here so you guys can see what we're talking about. The Edmonton City Council approved a complete zoning overhaul in October after days of contentious public hearings. Nearly 300 Edmontons showed up to share their views, and that came into effect. You could see this, right, Calvin? Mm-hmm. Yep. The new zoning effect came into effect on June 1st. Okay, so as of Monday, June 1st, all properties in Edmonton have been rezoned from previous zones to their closest equivalents under the new bylaw. The impacts on the neighborhood will depend on where you live. There's an interactive map online. You can go and see it. But zoning sets the rules for where new buildings should go, for those of you guys that don't know, and what types of buildings that they can build, and what types of businesses they can have, and what you can do in those buildings, right? And as the city says, it determines what can be built where. The new bylaw shrinks the number of zones from 46 to 24. And
the simplification, so nice.
Yes, so much simpler. They're cutting so much red tape in this. They're making it easier for you to develop on older lots because they want to densify. They know that they can't just keep building out. They've been building out. I mean, look at South Edmonton. You know, we're almost in Beaumont. We're literally, like, every time I go through Beaumont up to South Edmonton, I realize, man, we are getting closer and closer and closer. So like this, like the outer cities, so like, you know, Spruce Grove and Sherwood Park and Leduc and Beaumont, we're getting closer and closer to them because they just keep building out, but they can't keep doing that. So they're going to have to focus on building within and being more strategic and productive or effective. So they cut down on the number of zones, and the big plan, the city plan, a long-term outlook that imagines a more dense, environmentally friendly urban space as the city grows towards a population of 2 million. The new zones make it easier for developers to build larger infill properties in many neighborhoods, foregoing the time and cost of rezoning. So they're making it easier for you to rezone. Like, you don't have to go and put all those applications in and ask the neighborhood if it's okay. You don't have to put a notice in the newspaper for, you know, giving everyone an opportunity to complain. No more. The neighborhood, now dominated by single detached homes, could see other types of housing sprout up more easily. There are 6 new zones specifically for residential outside of the rural areas. And those areas are small scale residential, 3 stories, small scale flex residential, 3 stories, small medium scale, 3 or 4 stories. I know I'm ripping through this really fast, but you guys can find this stuff online. I'm excited. I'm super excited. Small medium scale transition residential zone, which is 3 or 4 stories. Medium scale residential, 4 to 8 stories, and large scale residential, 9 to 20 stories. Now, many neighborhood overlays and additional layer regulations have also been retired in the new bylaw. And of the 10 that existed in the previous bylaw, only 2, the floodplain protection and the North Saskatchewan River, continue to exist, while a third, which is the airport protection, has been added. So it's, again, making things so incredibly easy, way more flexible. And as an investor, what that means for you is that there is a lot more opportunity where there wasn't before. I mean, before January 1st, 2024, you had to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of red tape in order to get approved for stuff like this. Now they're basically saying, have at her. Have at her. Mm-hmm. And Calvin, in your business, in your line of work, how much demand how have you seen the demand increase for the desire, or the demand for lots and old dilapidated houses? Have you seen it going up significantly?
It's the highest I've ever seen it ever at this point. And it's just due to the relaxation of what you're allowed to do and the land use, like you're saying. So the creative builder is now able to take that canvas and they have more colors that they can work with as opposed to black and white and gray. And Edmonton's leading the way when it comes to the zoning relaxation. And it's really revitalizing. I mean, there's a lot of positivity behind it. My favorite thing about like infills and redevelopment is that the inner city is actually dealing with an issue. And we're going to talk about this in Recon a little bit. The inner city is dealing with issues of families, of businesses going under, schools being empty, because a lot of the newer families are going to the outskirts with these newer developments, right? They're not buying grandma's house and then putting $150K to renovate it. They're buying a brand new property that's either in the southwest or north.
Yep.
And what's happening is that then grandma and grandpa's house, you know, a lot of the new families aren't moving there. So the infills are bringing the families back in, filling the schools back up, and essentially we're creating these 15-minute communities. So we are going to be touching on that. And actually one thing that I wanted to share, so if you want to let me share my screen really quick.
Absolutely, just go to present.
One of our builders that's going to be present and speaking, Adam Tassone with Skyward Homes. He'll be speaking at Recon, and I'll give you a little bit of a taste. So if you're interested in infill, or have anybody that's interested in infill. Infill's anything. And infill's taking something old and putting something new, whether you're adding density or not to it. So here, I'll share my screen here. Yep. And you guys can see essentially what you're able to build. So if anybody's interested in that, this is a document that Adam actually created and shared it with me. And so it essentially shows you based on the position of your lot. Are you an inside lot? Are you a corner lot? What can you build based on the size of that lot? This is a cheat sheet. This cheat sheet is extremely valuable that companies charge you big money to get, okay? So we are going to be going through that in Recon in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
Okay?
And who, it was Adam, right?
Adam.
Is he locked in for Recon?
Adam is going to be at Recon. Yes.
There you go.
So if you have any interest in it, I don't think it's live either. So if you're not coming to the event, you're going to miss out. Like you have to be there in person. So book your tickets now. It's cheaper if you book. I mean, I think anywhere to Edmonton is really not that expensive unless you're in like PEI or Nova Scotia. So you want to get your tickets so you can be there and present and you can see what some of the top builders are doing. They will give you the cheat sheet. This is what you need to do to be successful. And this is where you need to look. So.
Infill opportunities, development opportunities are one of the big topics that we're going to be discussing at Recon, and we want to make sure that we have the right experts for that. So yes, we've got Adam coming from Skyward Homes, I believe, and we've also got zoning specialists. We've got multifamily specialists as well that are going to be there, and any questions you guys have. There's also going to be a Q&A section as well, or more of a discussion thing over lunch. So you have the ability to actually meet these individuals there. We got a VIP section as well. I didn't talk about that. You know, if you get the VIP tickets, you can actually go to the VIP area and meet all of these experts and just pick their brains. I'm going to be in there. Calvin's going to be in there as well. All of our major speakers are going to be in there. So there's never been a better opportunity to connect with real estate experts in Edmonton to learn other than this event. Someone was asking here, someone said, this is exciting. The zoning changes. Trudy asked, does that mean infills? Yes, 100%. And we're seeing them in other cities as well, but I'm finding that this is the hot topic in Edmonton right now that everybody's talking about, and all I'm seeing is just people trying to find lots and selling lots and wholesaling lots, lots as in like land, and because everybody wants to build more. The big phrase that I keep seeing thrown around these days in Edmonton is highest and best use. And that it's completely changed the way that we're investing in Edmonton right now, because before it was you had your couple options, but ever since January 1st, highest and best use has been the big topic of discussion. And, you know, it's not always, you know, just because you got a lot that's that big doesn't mean that it's the best use by building as many units as possible. You do need to take a lot of other things into consideration, like financing. You got to take other things into consideration, like who's your tenant profile for that particular area. There's lots more to consider. So it's just not as simple and black and white as what we're making it seem today. You got to come to the event to learn more. You got to talk to the experts. Now, it's not all just about infill and development though, right? Obviously, I told you earlier, ever since January 15th, I've been having my finger on the pulse. I'm just watching. I'm looking for little indicators and stuff. I'm trying to see what's going on. I'm trying to figure out, is Edmonton going to blow up or not? Like, is it going to be amazing? And one of the big things that I've been waiting for is the spring market for two reasons. spring market from the purchase and sale perspective of like the acquiring properties and seeing what the values are going to do, seeing what kind of demand there is, because we got a huge housing shortage in Canada right now, huge housing shortage, and also in Alberta. So we got, how is the housing market going to be for purchases and sales, and what kind of demand and how many properties are going to be on the market. And then as well, I'm also looking for spring, summer for the rental market, because that's a huge indicator as well, because not only do we have a housing shortage, we have a rental shortage as well. And I've been looking very closely at both of them, kind of seeing, and obviously Calvin explained earlier, the stats and the data shows that the days on market are low. Everything's going for over asking. Like, we're already seeing that on the purchase side and the sale side. On the rental side, I wanted to share some things, because, information and stats just came out in October 2023 from CMHC talking about the vacancy rates. You obviously heard about this, Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
Vacancy rates they're projecting it to go like this, which is a good thing, because as the vacancy rates go down, that means that there's going to be a higher demand for rentals. There's not enough rentals. Mm-hmm. And that came out in October, which is, just coming up on, they take the data from 2023 and then they kind of project what it's going to be like. But as we came through the winter, like, you can't look at a rental market through the winter as good information. You got to wait until, when the leases start coming up for renewal, when there's the largest demand for rentals, which is right now. We are literally right in it right now. And we're going to take that data to determine how much supply is on the market for rentals and how much demand is there. And I've been talking with lots of investors, and I personally, with my own portfolio as well, been paying close attention. There's not much on the market. There's not. Mm-hmm. And taking that information one step further, when there's not a whole lot of supply and there's a huge demand, Calvin, what typically happens with rent prices?
Mm-hmm. Go up. And there's no rental ceiling in the sense of like limitations outside of a timeline here in Edmonton. So, I have a friend here, a good buddy of mine, that purchased, or actually is renting in Vancouver. So whenever he goes to Vancouver, he has a spot for himself, and his landlord just increased rents. And I was like, they can increase it by what, 0.026 or whatever it is. I'm like, yeah. $40. He's like, I know, it's hilarious. He's like, I just increased my rentals here because interest rates have gone up. So for me to balance what I'm making and to cover all expenses, I increased it by $150 just recently. So again, a huge advantage. If you don't know, there's what we call the Alberta advantage. And so you can actually, if interest rates spike, so like in other provinces, interest rates go up. They go up by 1%, 2%, 3% over the course of 6 months. Your rental rates will never follow the increased expenses ever, based on the laws that are tying you down as a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
That is tough. If you have numerous properties, that is enough to put you from cash flow neutral to cash flow negative. And then all of a sudden you're working just to keep your rentals alive, if not slowly going into a foreclosure position.
Yeah.
We have the ability, as long as you have 365 days with that tenant, to increase the rent to any price you want. The biggest limitation is your chance of losing that tenant if they are a good tenant.
Of course.
So I don't recommend going in there and trying to create a vacancy, but there is no rate cap for the rental market. So it allows us to roll with the punches a little bit more, right? So if we get a high interest rate, we can go ahead and adjust. And that's what I did with all my properties, is I let my tenants know, hey, interest rates are going up. We have to be able to adjust accordingly. And they get it, right? Utilities. If utilities go up in another province, you can't just increase your rent to make a difference for that. You have to eat it. You have to eat it, yeah. Right? That's tough. You like that? Yeah. Lots of faces like that going on at Recon. I will win the award for the most craziest faces and maybe the best jokes. I'm hoping. We'll see.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, that's the cool thing about Recon is obviously Calvin and I are going to be co-hosting it, and so you get to listen to us throw jabs at each other for a full 2 days. But
it's real though. Everything I'm saying is real. Like whether you're a mom and pop that have one investment property or you're a big time investor that have tons of properties. it's not just getting as many properties as possible and then not really understanding how you can mitigate your risk. I think markets like this that stretch the interest rates of what many of our generation are not used to, back in 20 or 19, 1980s, interest rates were like 14, 15%. So if you're in that generation, you get it. But if you're in our generation and you just buy as many properties as possible and you don't mitigate that risk of higher interest rates, knowing that you don't have control unless you fixed a rate at that price, that doesn't last forever. You could be at some serious risk. So we'll also be discussing risk mitigation on how to make sure that you can do this for the long term. If you're buying a property, if you're doing a real estate investing to create a legacy, to create retirement, to provide some kind of fund, college fund for your kids, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we look at all the risk that's associated with the strategy that you're using and being able to do a bit of a stress test of our own to make sure that you have longevity in this. Right? You can look at it short term. That's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But from the long term perspective, that's an angle and a lens that a lot of people forget to utilize, which we need to shine a light on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to be talking lots about building the rental portfolio like a business. I'm a business guy. I treat everything super seriously. In my years of experience, I only have one property, which I'm currently listing right now, that has not performed well through this interest rate increase. Otherwise, everything else has all been cash flow positive, making sure that, we're able to weather storms like this. But when interest rates go high and people are scared to invest, this is the best time to invest, right? That is the best time to invest. When everybody else is scared, that's when you jump in. And what do they say? That when there's blood in the streets, that's when you're supposed to. But just pay close attention though, because people are starting to notice. People are starting to notice because investors like myself and Calvin, we're sharing this information and it's starting to become normal. And we're going to start seeing those headlines changing. And you want to make sure that you get in before the headlines start changing, because otherwise you're going to be fighting everybody else. Now, you were talking a minute ago about lease renewals, and you don't want to scare tenants away. That's actually, I got a story. I got my list of all my lease renewals just up here on my whiteboard, and my wife and I, Gabby, we're trying to find a strategic way to increase our rents, because we are way under market rent right now from the big changes over the last 6 months. But again, you don't want to scare your tenants too much. But we got one suite where the rent market is under, the market rent went up $400 since November. $400. And we're like, we can't do a $400 increase, but we don't want to not increase it. We want to get up there. If I do a $400 increase, there's a very good chance they're going to move out because they just can't afford it. Or they're, instead of spite, they'll like, oh, I'll go find something else. Even though we know that they're going to go out and they're going to find something the exact same amount of rent, and then they're going to have to go through the hassle of moving. We don't want to jeopardize the relationship between us and our tenants. So we came up with, I believe we're going to be increasing it about 150, 175 bucks. But that's huge increase. And because you're in Alberta, we're investing in Alberta. Like you said, we can increase it as much as we want. I could have done 400. And to be honest with you, based on what's on the market right now and the market rents, I feel like I really could have done that $400 increase. I'm going to pull up Rent Faster here so you can see how many rentals are available on the market right now. It's not that much. It's not that much for a city that's over 1 million people. Let's take a peek at this real fast. Here you go. Okay, where was it? Oh, I can't find it. There we go. Perfect. Here you go. So you can see this is all the rentals that are available. And well, you got Spruce Grove included here, Sherwood Park, a little bit of Beaumont, a little bit of Fort Saskatchewan. Now it's 2,600 rentals, but keep in mind that for most of us that are buying rental properties in the Edmonton area, we might not be buying these 1 bedroom or bachelor apartment units. So let's just go through one at a time. Let's go through main floor suite. Okay. Main floor suites, we're probably looking at about 1,300 to about 2,200, just so that we don't get anything that shouldn't be in there. Main floor suite, boom. So right now, main floor suites in Edmonton is 66. It's not a whole heck of a lot, Calvin. Like it's not. Well, let's look at. I looked it up. In basements, there's quite a bit more for basement suites. I'll say that for certain. Basement suites, there are quite a bit more. That's probably about the price range you're looking at. For basement suites, we've got about 158. And that's, could be anything that's like in a basement suite, like, in one of these 2-story, new builds, or an older bungalow. And they're going to vary in quality and size, but only 158. Now let's look at, oh, sorry, hang on a second. I included main floor there. Hang on. Wait a second. Now let's try that again. 141. I left the filter on by accident. 141, not that much. Let's look at houses. Houses, the new market rents. And by the way, if you guys are wondering what the market rents are right now, I happen to know them because I just finished a big Edmonton market rent study, and we're going to be doing that next week. So next Friday, make sure you're tuning in. Calvin and I are going to be doing a full Edmonton market rent study for you guys. I'm going to tell you about all of what the market rents are in Edmonton this season. I just got it finished, so I know where all the ranges are. And this is very valuable information if you're going to be thinking about buying rental properties in the Edmonton area or in Edmonton. You're going to want to know how much you can charge and what your cash flow is going to be. So that's next Friday. But for right now, houses, this is the normal range. I don't want to get those big $3,500, lakefront properties. That's not typically what investors are buying. But for this normal range of single family houses, 102. Is that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of them are in like the central area, but like, what if you work in the Northwest? What if you work in Castle Downs, or what if you work in St. Albert, but you don't want to live in St. Albert? Like, what kind of options do you have in the Northwest? 2, 3, maybe, unless you want to go down to Dovercourt, which, and these are Alberta Ave area, Delton. So these aren't the greatest areas. So if you want a decent area in the Northwest, there's limited options right now. Very limited options. Like, you see what I mean? Like, there's huge opportunity as an investor right now to be buying, you know what I mean? Like, look at this. Like, that's absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. When there's demand like that, you got to think like, I don't think you're going to have any trouble renting.
I'm going to flip the script a little bit here. You're a tenant and you're watching this right now. You're a tenant and you're watching us right now. And instead of this creating fear, anxiety, or whatever emotions you might be feeling, rightfully so, come from the perspective that, if I was tenanted right now, or if I was tenanting a property right now, and I knew I wasn't ready for an approval because I got a new job, because of income, whatever it is, there are so many other options as a tenant, as a life preserver for you to get into home ownership outside of the traditional method of putting, 5% down. There's rent to own, there's seller financing. There are options out there. So if you are a tenant and you're watching this and you're thinking to myself, there are no options, what do I do? I'm in a tough position and I can't go to Calgary and I don't want to live in, Nemeo or in Millet. There are other options out there. So when we're talking about this stuff and we're talking about Recon's not just for your active investor that's been doing this for years. It's not just for mom and pop. If you just simply want to get into the real estate industry, period, show up. Show up, learn strategies that will help you get into home ownership faster. You just need to be taught the right tools, how to utilize them, and the right people to be connected with to make it happen.
Yeah. As an investor, I can understand that some of this might be a little overwhelming, confusing, thinking to yourself like, well, how do I know what's a good property? And how do I know, what kind of tenants I should be putting in there? I know it's like, for new investors, it can be very scary, but that's why we're putting this event on. And I'm going to be actually doing a large presentation on the fundamentals of real estate investing to get you guys up to speed so you know how to make these decisions. And then throughout the rest of the weekend, we're going to be having more creative and complicated advanced strategies to teach you how to scale your property or your portfolio significantly faster. Back to this though, Calvin. I mean, like if you had a family and you were looking for a house in Mill Woods, so you have 3 options. This one, which is a little rougher. I'm pretty certain that one did not have a garage. Street parking. There you go. Perfect. So you're thinking to yourself like, okay, like where am I going to live? Okay, finally, this one's a really nice house. And judging by the stickers in the window, it's brand new. Okay, perfect. 2,300. All right. It's not really within my budget, but okay, cool. And then did you see what I highlighted there a minute ago? Oops. No, sorry. That's not a full house. That's a main floor suite. And utilities are not included. So you're $2,300 a month, utilities not included, and you don't even get the basement because there's a basement tenant in there. Like, can you imagine being a tenant, like freaking out right now, trying to figure out where the heck am I going to live? And there's nothing available. That right there, I swear, this is opportunity for investors, because if you were to buy a single family house in Mill Woods right now, you have zero competition. You can set your rent at whatever you want. Same thing down here. Like you got what, 5 options? This one's $2,300 a month. Does it have a basement? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. It does. It's okay. But still $2,300 a month for a single family house. I'll tell you, Calvin, last November, the rent for this property was $1,700 a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much it's gone up. It's absolutely crazy. I'll do one last thing. I know some people are really interested in that townhouse market right now in Edmonton, which it's becoming more and more difficult. I'll admit to you guys. Let's zoom out a pinch. Okay. Townhouse market. Let's look around that $1,300 to the $2,000 mark. Let's see how many townhouses are available, because, the renters, you got to think like a renter, you got to think like your clients, if your renters are thinking, okay, well, I can't afford that $2,400 single family house, but I still need 3 bedrooms. I still need a finished basement, and I need a little yard for Timmy to play in. Okay, let's look at townhouses. It's more within my affordability range. Right now in Edmonton, townhouses, 165. And you're seeing anywhere from 16 to 1695. You got 1365, 1670. You're in that 1600 to 1800 range, which is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Mm-hmm. Great opportunities right now, I tell you. Absolutely great opportunities. So you got to do that market research. You got to know, what kind of demand there is. You got to know what you can charge for rent. And then obviously next step is to call up your investor focused realtor and find out, okay, cool. How do I this is what I'm looking to buy. Help me out. Set me up on a search. I'm ready to write offers, right? Do you think that people should wait? When it's this hot and we haven't heard any news? I can't even imagine how, I don't like to speculate, but I tell you, I'm excited. I'm really excited, because if we're this hot this quickly since November to April, I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat for July, honestly. Mm-hmm. July and August, I have no idea where it's going to go, because I have a feeling in the next few weeks, the next few months, we're going to start to see some huge demand coming in. And I think there's going to be more multiple offers. We've been doing multiple offers ever since late January, early February. It started really early in the season, and people are struggling. And what's going to happen is people are going to keep writing offers. And what happens? Then they get frustrated and they call the news, and the news gets wind of it. And then there's Janice holding her baby saying, I've got nowhere to live, and these investors are ruining everything. And then as soon as everybody sees that, they just flood to Edmonton, and it just explodes. It's just a huge volcanic eruption. And we saw that in 2022, remember? 2022 was super hot. We saw it, and we thought it was going to keep going, but it was a bit of a false start, because we're like, okay, finally, we're going to start looking like Calgary. It's going. And then July, August, it kind of peaked. So we're paying close attention to the market to kind of see, is this going to keep on going? Are we going to start seeing single family houses? What's the average price for a single family house? Like a first time home buyer, entry level single family house right now?
First time home buyer, single family detached house, you could look at getting something in that's partially renovated for $370.
Yeah.
You could do 350, 350 even. I mean, right around there. Yeah.
But your newer areas are in the mid 4s, right?
Yeah, even a little bit higher. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you find an older neighborhood built in the 80s, 90s, you can probably, or some of the 70s built, you can find some of those 350s that are they're decent. And if you want to get into those newer neighborhoods, you're looking at 450 to 500. Look at Calgary. They're 700. How do I literally
I have it on my social media. Literally, if you want to see the actual stats as of yesterday, we've literally pulled prices. We did how many active properties under 500 in Edmonton versus Calgary, price range, average, everything. And so if you want to see it, I should have actually had it available for this. It'd be fantastic. It's considerably different.
Yeah. And, Mitch there, Mitch is in the rent to own game as well. And, he's looking at this as a great opportunity for using those creative strategies as well, which we're not going to talk about today. But, in markets like this and rising markets, it creates a lot of opportunities. And Mitch has his rent to own business. And, Barry McGuire is going to be speaking at the event. He's going to be going over all the creative strategies, and he's going to be covering rent to own. So, you might be able to not just, it's not just about infill and about buying rental properties. There's other creative strategies you can add to your business as well to increase cash flow, to increase the, the sale price, and ultimately, get yourself a better return on investment. So looking forward to Recon so much, man. Like, honestly, I'm so excited for it. But let's close out the topic that we discussed today, and that's, should you wait to invest in Edmonton? I think we've kind of covered it. I think we kind of answered it, but ultimately, what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait for everybody else. If you wait for everybody else and you're waiting for like 100% absolute certainty that everything's going to be okay, you're going to miss out on an opportunity. And I see this all the time where people are like, I want to invest in real estate. I'm just a little scared. I don't know. Is it a good idea? And in those moments of indecision, everybody else is jumping on and they're taking advantage of it. And by the time you start watching everybody and you start seeing, okay, everything's good, you got way too much competition. Way too much competition. We're already seeing the early stages right now with everyone starting to get competition. It's like 3, 4, 5 people you're fighting. Just imagine how bad that's going to be once everybody else and the homeowners are getting in the competition. The out of town, investors from other provinces are getting in there as well. You're getting all the other people just like you that were sitting on the sidelines, and now suddenly they're jumping in as well. The competition is going to be way too much. You're going to be overpaying for properties, and you're going to miss out on buying low and all that appreciation. Just think about it. You could pick up those properties for $350 right now. What's that property going to be worth in 3 years? If we go the same route as Calgary, I'm not saying it's an absolute guarantee, but if that's your mindset, if you wanted to get into a market that's extremely underpriced, that has the huge prospect of appreciation, you can't wait until it's already 500. You missed out on $150,000 worth of gains in this example. So those who wait are the ones who typically don't get the benefits, right?
Yeah.
So no,
completely agree.
Don't wait. Honestly, I'm like, I never provide this level of like certainty in an answer. Normally I like to keep it a little vague because we never know what's going to happen. But okay, Calvin, let's play worst case scenario as we finish out. Let's play worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you buy a property for market value today and it doesn't go up in value?
You're holding on to it and you're likely going to be cash flow neutral.
You bought a great business. That's why I said earlier, like, you don't go buying 100% on speculation that it's going to go up in value. Like I said, you're going to buy in a really good market. If you could find a really good business in a really good market, throw your appreciation over here and just let it sit there, and that's dessert. But if you can find a really good cash flowing property that performs well in today's market, with the interest rates, with the rents and everything else, if you could find something that performs really well, build a really strong ship. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't appreciate, you've got cash flow, you got mortgage pay down. Hopefully interest rates start coming down in a little while here. It's going to increase our cash flow more. You made profit. I mean, I've averaged 20% ROI on my investments, on my rental property investments for the last 10 years, and they haven't seen any appreciation. 20% with no appreciation. Now, in the last 6 to 12 months, I'm doing cartwheels because I'm seeing a lot more because of that appreciation. But invest in a really strong market that has good potential before everybody else does, and buy good cash flowing assets, build good businesses. That's it. It's super simple. Super simple. Yep. Anything to add?
Excited to see you guys at Recon.
Yeah.
Make it out.
Yeah.
Gotta come out.
Absolutely. I swear we're going to have like 250, 300 plus investors with Edmonton's top experts. It's going to be dope. It's going to be dope. And I do not use that term loosely.
If you guys want to see Edmonton stats, message us afterwards. Happy to send it over. If you want to see more details of infill guidelines of what you can do given any particular lot, parcel size, corner, inside, message us. Happy to be able to connect you with the right people. So
absolutely. Yeah. So those of you guys that don't know, Calvin Realty is the team that I use for buying all my properties. Hands down, best in the city. Best. Calvin knows these stats. Like, okay, fun little story. Before we got started, I'm like, Calvin, I sorry, man. Like, I hate to drop this on you, but we should probably throw some stats in here at the beginning. And I'm like, I'm so sorry I dropped this on you like 2 minutes before. And he goes, dude, do you know who I am? Calvin knows these stats.
I mean, it was a friendly version of that. Yes.
And same thing, like if you hit me with, math right now, or you ask me about market rents or how many, how many listings are on the market right now, I can throw those numbers out, no problem, because we do this stuff every day. This is our life. Couldn't have come up with a better person to partner with for this event, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to it, and hope you guys are too. So we will see you guys all there.
All right, guys. Next week, market rent study, Edmonton market rent study. Make sure you don't miss that. Book off next Friday from work so you don't miss it.
Just like that.
All right, guys. Have a good one.